Hello, and welcome to our second video in our series of Hiring Manager portal videos. In this video, I'm going to look at how we would create a vacancy. So the first thing we have to do to create a vacancy is to go up to the top left-hand side, and you will see there's an option there, Create. I'm going to click on that, and there's a little drop-down comes down, and I have two options on that. The option I'm going to take today is the Add a Vacancy for Approval, Load from Template, so I'll click on that. We'll change to the next screen, and in this next screen, the first thing I've got to do is to choose the cost center or the service area that I want to create this vacancy for. So we'll click on Select, and you will only see the cost centers or service areas that you have access to. But for the training today, I'm going to use the 70033 Independent Living Operations Scotland. I'll click on that. It will select. I now want to load from template the type of vacancy that I'm going to create. So I'll click on Select again, and I'll see a number of templates that are here. Please note that these templates you can select as hiring manager are also based on your level of access in Eploy. And the one that I want today is for a service manager for independent living, which is this one here. I'll click on this one. And now that we've selected that, I'll click Continue. Okay, so we're on the next screen, and we'll start with requisition details. You'll see that the job title and the cost center service area have been taken from the details we put in previously. Just want to point out one thing to you here. If you see any little question marks in a black circle like this, if you click on that, what it will do is it will give you some information about that particular field, and clicking outside of that will take that back off for you. Okay, so we've got the job title, we've got the cost center. Is it UK or overseas? There's a drop down here. We're going to stay with UK. The job function will be here, and we can select the job function. I'm going to leave it as health and community care at the moment, but I can select that and change it. The location. So this should be where the person will normally be working with this particular job. We should also mention that if the role is either home-based or the location is flexible, then you'll not need to complete the following address fields if you select either of those two. Now the job I'm going to use here is in Dundee, so I'm going to come along and I'm going to pick Dundee. Okay. So I now want to fill in the address details of where this job will be. Okay, so we now have the address typed in. What I now need to do is to go and select the country. So I'll drop down this little box here and we'll take United Kingdom. Okay, so we'll now scroll up to salary and requirements. Okay, and in salary and requirements, the first thing I have to fill in here is what is the funding type. So we'll click that drop down, and for this one, it's a general fund, but you've got mixed and restricted too, so it'll be general. The next field is the reason for hire, which I'll say is not a new role, but a replacement role. Okay. So if we take replacement role, you'll see that some extra fields come in here. Now, for example, the first one is please supply the name of the employee being replaced. So I am replacing John Smith. Okay. And we're then asked for the workforce ID of the employee being replaced. If known, that's the 9-digit beginning with a 0 number. So I'll pop in a number here. Okay. We now need to say what the job level, the leaver's job level is. So if we click on that, it would be a UK level 3. And the vacancy contract basis would be full-time in this case. And the vacancy contract time, and you'll see we have a few different ones here, but the one I'm going to take is permanent. Okay, so are there any changes to the current role? I'm going to say no in this case, but just to make you aware, if you say yes, some extra information will come up and ask for details of those changes required. But in this case, I'm going to say no, and that field will go away. Similarly with the next field here, is there an increase in the FTE or the full-time equivalent and or the budgeted salary? Again, if I say yes, I have to provide more details, but I'm going to say in this case, no. So this is now the job level I'm selecting. So I will say job level, select. There are two ways to search here for the job level. I could either pick from the list, which I'm showing here, or I could type something in the search box and that would narrow the number of options down to match whatever I've typed in the search box. And it will be grade 3 or a level 3, grade 3, where are we? And you'll see that in selecting level 3, we've got the basic salary minimum and the basic salary maximum shown. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up a little bit further now. And what we have is the contracted hours per week. So I'm going to say it's a 35 contracted hours a week. And I've now got the salary to advertise. Now this one's important because this salary, total salary to advertise, includes any London weighting, or if there's a market supplement, that would have to be the total amount in there. So I'm going to say 24,000. It's important to stress that the salary advertised doesn't always need to be the maximum approved budgeted salary. In our example here, the maximum budget would be 25,000, but for parity in my team, I'm going to advertise this job as 24,000. The next field talks about the maximum budget for this salary. So in this case, I'm going to say 25,000. In the case of London waiting for this particular job in Dundee, I'm going to say no, but if there is, you see that it does tell you the value for that. So I'm going to say no. The is there a market supplement field, I'm going to leave it no for this vacancy. The number of vacancies for this particular campaign, I only want one person to replace the person I am replacing in this case. And the last field in this section is the target start date. So let's look at the target start date. It will default to today's date. So I can say, for example, that I'm looking for July the 20th to start that. Okay, and that covers that section. Okay, so we'll now look at the funding details. I'll scroll up to get the funding details. Okay, so is the position going to be funded from more than one source? If I say yes, I'll have to provide information of those sources and details about that. But in my case here, I'm going to say no, and I won't see those extra fields. Does this position require a criminal records check? The role profile for the position will determine and indicate whether the position requires a criminal record check and also if a driver's check is required. There are a number of options here, depending where you are in the UK for this. So there's the Access NI for Northern Ireland, there's DBS for England, and there's PVG, for example, for Scotland. We're in Scotland here, so I will take PVG, Enhanced Check, Children and Adults. Okay. Does this particular position require a driver's check? There's a drop down here which would be mandatory, it's not required, or it's optional. I'm going to say in this case that it's not required. And the last option in the funding details is this position open to job sharing and to flexible working? I'm going to say yes. If I say no, I have to give a reason why it's not, but I'm going to say yes here. And that covers the funding details section. Okay, so we're going to scroll up to the advertising details, and just one thing to point out to you here is that this advert is a template for internal use only. You will get a briefing call from the resourcing team, and then this advert will be updated to accurately reflect the vacancy that you're actually recruiting for. So I'm going to move on to the next section now. So we'll scroll up the way and we'll get to additional information. And the first thing that I need to do with additional information is to upload a copy of the role profile. You'll find further guidance on Redroom about the role profiles, but I've already got my role profile here. I'm going to click on Upload Role Profile, and I've got the option of either dragging and dropping a file into this little section here, or I can select the file and go to a particular folder. For example, this is the one I want here. I'll click on that and we'll open and we'll upload the file. And you'll find that the file is now uploaded and shown there. Okay. The next thing I need to look at here is notes for the resourcing team. This is quite a handy feature where I can put information that will help the resourcing team. I'm going to type in a couple of things here. Okay, so we've added some notes for the resourcing team. And then we want to look at the advertise internally and externally, and I'll say yes in both cases for this one. And that covers the additional information section. Okay, the last section here is to do with hiring team. So you'll see that you are automatically selected as the hiring manager for this vacancy, but there is the option to add additional hiring managers. Now, additional hiring managers will have the same access to this vacancy as you would, but it would mean that there is cover for holidays or absence. So if we're going to add additional hiring managers, what we would do is we would select them and tick the box, and I can have more than one. And you'll see that the 2 additional hiring managers are now part of this vacancy. Okay, so we've now filled in the details that we need for this vacancy, but there is 2 options now. We can either save this vacancy as a draft, or we can continue to the next stage. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to continue to the next stage, so I'll click on continue. Okay, so we now see the next stage here, and a couple of things to point out to you. If we had saved the vacancy in draft, we will be able to reload the vacancy, and you'll see a screen a bit like the one shown here, where there is the option to either continue with it or actually say that it's no longer required, and that would stop the vacancy from happening. The Service Manager Independent Living has got an ID number at the very top there of 650, and this is the vacancy ID number, 650 in this case. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to put in the financial authorizer and the senior manager authorization. So in the 2 fields here, if I click on one of them, I'll be able to select somebody by typing in their name, or if they're on a list, I can click on the list. These are test people on this particular one, so they're not the people that would be doing this normally. And the same with the manager authorization, I would pop in the manager that I'd need to authorize this. And I can also pop in some status comments or things here that I need to tell the team. So I'm just going to say, can you please review this request? Okay, and now that I've got everything ready, I can now submit this for approval. So I'll do that now. I'll now see a little summary of what I've popped in, and we can scroll up and down and see all the details that we have popped in. And what you'll find at the top is there's also the option to work on this vacancy if I wanted to go back in. So I'm now going to go back to the main page by clicking on the British Red Cross icon. You will receive an email from the system to confirm that your vacancy has been successfully submitted for authorization. It's also important to note that if your vacancy is rejected, it would have to go through the approval process again. If you're an approver, you'll get an email to tell you that there's a vacancy awaiting your approval. You don't need to log into the system. You could actually just click on the click here to view link as highlighted, and that would take you straight into the system to allow you to approve. Once your vacancy has been approved by the senior manager and financial approver, you'll receive an email to tell you that that has now been approved and that your vacancy is ready to send to resourcing. So what we'll do now is we'll have a look at this vacancy. If you remember that the vacancy ID number was 650, if I look on the hiring manager portal, you'll see there is my vacancies in authorization. And if I click here, I'm able to see the vacancy I've got in authorization, and there is my 650. If I click on that one, as before, you can look at the details that you have entered. But if we scroll right the way down, what you'll find is there's a little trail of what's happened. You'll see further details on the approval history with comments and timestamps. The stage highlighted in bold beside the green dot is the stage that your vacancy is currently at. So there you can see I set it up. It was requiring authorization and senior manager, and it's now been approved by the two people, the senior manager and the financial approver, and it's now ready to send to resourcing. Okay, if I want to pop any comments in here in the status comments, I can do that too. But what I'll do in this case is I will send this to resourcing. So I'm going to click on send to resourcing. You'll see a little pop-up comes up saying that the request has been logged with the resourcing team and they will be in touch shortly to assist you. Okay, we'll say okay to that. And I've now sent that to resourcing. Let's go back to the main Hiring Manager portal by clicking on British Red Cross icon. So you'll receive an email to tell you that the vacancy is currently with the resourcing team, and they will arrange to have a briefing call with you. You'll also receive an email to tell you that the advert has now went live on the system. You'll see that this email, there's a link to view the advert. So if we click on that, this will take you to the site so you can see how the advert's going to look for somebody applying. And as you can see in this advert, there's a map and there's the role profile and details about the role. Okay, so that's about it for this session. I hope you've enjoyed that and found that informative, and I look forward to seeing you on the next session. Thank you.